You are listening to an exclusive interview on Bass Musician Magazine.
Hey everybody, this is Raul for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with bassist Marc Hickox. And for those of you that don't know Marc plays with Matt Stubbs and the Antiguas. Tell us a little bit about your bass journey. How did you get started in bass?
Well, you know what? I got to really say, as a boy, I started listening to the radio. We had a radio in our living room, and it was kind of like the most sacred part of my day. I would have been 7, 8 years old. And I didn't start playing bass until I was 10 or 11. And what's funny is my brother brought home, because I'm not really from a musical family, but my brother brought home an Ibanez guitar catalog. He decided on a guitar. I said, well, I'm not going to do what he's going to do. I'm going to do the bass. So I decided on the bass. I didn't end up getting that Ibanez bass, but I got a cheaper one to start with. But that's kind of the simple story of how it all started,
Once you got your instrument, how did you go about learning? Did you play at school or take classes?
There was a small music school in my hometown, and I started there and took lessons once a week.
From there, how did you continue to grow as a musician? Start joining bands?
Well, I played in the school band, obviously, and then around when I was 12 or 13, I started playing in rock bands, and that's kind of how I started out.
Once you got started, did it just pretty much seem like that's what you wanted to do? Did you continue, or was it more just kind of learn as you go working?
At that age, it was just something that was fun to do with your friends. This is kind of many moons ago. It was just something to do with your buddies and to play rock and roll. That's kind of just, we rehearse at 11 o'clock Saturday morning, which you would never do as a professional musician these days, So it was just about fun.
Progressing into doing what you've been doing now more as an adult, did you pursue additional training?
Oh, absolutely. By the time I was 15 or 16, I kind of knew that I wanted to do this. And I progressed I went to Berkeley in the mid-90s and graduated. And I've been a professional musician ever since. I've never done anything else. So I'm quite proud of that.
Currently, you're playing with Matt Stubbs and the Antiguas. And I listened to a little bit of the music, and you guys have a pretty broad spectrum. I know that when I talk to a lot of bands, we'll try to kind of peg them into a particular niche. But
right.
As I started, I'm kind of going, okay, I'm getting a blues. And then I'd go, well, this one is kind of retro 60s surf sound. And then I'd listen to something else. I'm going, okay, this is kind of garagey. Or there's this one's got a little Afro-Cuban bit going on. So how do you guys define the music that you're playing, or is just wide open to go with whatever you want?
I think it's got a lot of 60s influence, garage band 60s influence. It's got a lot of blues influence because Matt is a wonderful blues musician. It's got a lot of modern influences. We listen to a lot of Dan Auerbach and Black Keys and bands like that. The production style definitely reflects that when you listen to the record. And that's basically, I think, a kind of what it's the center of it.
Speaking of a record, you guys are releasing this month a self-titled debut album.
We are. Thank you for announcing it.
There you go. Tell us a little bit about that project.
We have a residency here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, every Monday night at a club called the Sinclair. And we have a number of festivals coming up here in 2018. You can check it out on MatthewStubbs.net that we're going to be doing. And we're releasing the records, and the band's feeling good, and we're playing great. So that's kind of basically what it is.
Are we going to see kind of that combination of all the different musics that I talked about, kind of what we've been seeing building up on the videos?
Absolutely. There's quite a spectrum of sounds on that record, and it's pretty awesome.
What I noticed, and at least on the tune, on the video, Unwinder, some nice bass scaffolding there. So it's really kind of resting heavily on you, laying it down and kind of setting that groove for the tune.
No doubt. And we've got some nice fuzz on that too. Yeah, I mean, it's Matt he really wants some low end on the record. And if you hear a lot of modern records, that's what they want. You know, it's from a hip hop sort of tradition. And that's what Unwinders is based on.
Talking about, you mentioned fuzz, it would be a good time to talk a little bit about gear. How are you getting your voice? What instruments, what gear are you using?
Well, I've got my old P bass, which is just behind me here. Mm-hmm. It's a 62. I haven't changed the strings in about 10 years, I don't think. Barely have to tune it, so that's what I use. As my main amp to travel with, I have a Gens-Benz Shuttle series. It's a 6.2, I think, and I have two bag end 15 cabinets that I line up, so it's about 600 watts, so it's a lot of power, and you can use it in small rooms, big rooms. It works out great, man.
Getting fuzz, are you using pedals or?
I definitely am, yep. Well, traditionally, I have old Ampeg V4B. That's not really fuzz. I use that more for recording, but it's beautiful for rock stuff. It breaks up beautifully. But with the Antiguas, I'm using pedals, and I have a peppermint fuzz by Analog Man that works really, really nice.
Any other things on your pedal board?
I do. I have a clean boost, which is a RC booster. It's Exotic Effects. And then I have the secret weapon is this DoD meat box. It's a sub-synth pedal. And it does incredible things. It just fills the bottom out like it's like an IMAX theater. You know, it's fantastic.
I guess since you haven't changed your strings in 10 years, it wouldn't make any sense to ask about your strings.
You can totally. They're flat wound. I think they're D'Addario's. But listen, I mean, that's my main axe. Mm-hmm. But I have, for studio purposes, I do have basses with round wounds on it for a brighter sound. But live, that's my old baby. That's what I go to.
And a lot of it has to do with the kind of sound that you're looking for. With flat wounds, and especially, I guess, clinically pronounced dead flat wounds. After 10 years, I suppose everybody would say those are pretty dead. But if they're giving you that thumpy kind of sound you're looking for, a lot of people like them in reggae. And I think I picked up on a little bit of a kind of a Caribbean note on one of the tunes I was listening to. I go, okay, this is
Stubbs, on the record.
This fits in perfectly for what you're looking to do. I know you mentioned festivals and things. Future projects, what do you guys have in mind? I know it's maybe too soon to say because you've got an album coming out right now, but usually people are kind of looking ahead. Okay, once we get this done now, what are we going to do?
Sure. Well, there's already enough material in the can for another record, so we want to get that out, possibly this year. I don't know. We've been working on more material.
Any far-reaching tours? Anything national or international?
Not as of yet. We're working on that. But, I expect something like that in the fall. I think something in the fall, we're going to be doing some of that kind of thing.
If the weather's anything like it has been this year, maybe someplace warm would be a good place to go.
Look at me. I'm in my jacket, man. It's freezing up here in New England,
That's crazy. Well, Marc, we appreciate you taking time out of a busy schedule, sharing a bit about your journey, about the music with Matt Stubbs and the Antiguas. People, remember, you can find information about what's going on at MatthewStubbs.net. So
that's it.
Stay on top of album releases. I'll include a couple of videos that I looked at so that people can see it. Folks, you've seen it here. Marc Hickox coming to you live on Bass Musician Magazine.
Thanks for basing out with us here on BassMusicianMagazine.com.